Should I stay or should I go? Everyone agrees that house prices are starting to fall, but nobody knows how much and for how long. In this video, I'll share with you my top 7 important lessons to remember when house prices are falling in a market. One thing that's sure is that in the latest Halifax House Price Index, the latest stats show that house prices are dropping around 1 to 1.5% a month at the moment, and this is expected to continue throughout 2023. It's a weird time, but with a great recession comes great opportunity. And in this video, sometimes it's better to stand back and take a breath. So jumping right into tip number 1, one house will always be worth one house. Everybody wants, quite impractically, to buy low and sell high and make as much money as possible in between to trade up the property ladder. And the whole idea of property prices is centered around you purchasing a property today for a certain price in the hope that somebody potentially younger is going to buy that house for more in the future. But also just remember that if you are moving house and you're not a first-time buyer, as property prices go down, the house that you're trying to sell will also go down too. So if you're a mover and you're hoping to buy low and sell high, just remember the selling bit is also going to be difficult in the same market. Tip number 2 is work out whether it's better to buy a house or, if you're a first-time buyer, continue renting. You have to do the sums on whether it's better to pay someone else's mortgage or to find the money, buy a house and pay your own mortgage even in these difficult times. Some people say that paying interest is a waste of money and is very similar to renting, and they wouldn't be wrong. However, when you're paying capital down on a mortgage and you also get to benefit from the capital appreciation of the entire property that you have, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And tip number 3 is buying low only happens during low times. Securing a bargain is the absolute dream for some people, buying low and then watching the value of the house multiply over a period of time as we come out of a recession. But the reality is, during a recession, people's jobs are squeezed, income is squeezed, and people can afford less. What is more is that banks tighten their affordability assessment criteria, meaning it's harder to get the same value mortgage that you'll be able to get during strong economic times. So stay realistic about your ability to buy at the bottom of a market. Instead, make sure you're focusing on your own financial security and ability to afford a property, both from the initial deposit and also the monthly repayments. By focusing on financial security and affordability, you'll ensure that you're in the best position to make an offer on a property during these tough times coming up. Tip number 4 is that negative equity is a real threat in a downwards market. If house prices fall by more than 10% and you have locked in a mortgage with a 90% loan to value amount, meaning you put in a 10% deposit and the bank has funded 90%, anything dropping more than 10% will likely mean that you're going to be in negative equity very quickly. This means that you owe the bank more money than what you are able to sell the property for. So if I bought a house for £100,000 on a 90% loan to value mortgage, so 90k was the mortgage, 10k was the deposit, but then house prices went down by 10%, that means that the house is only worth £90,000, meaning I've lost at that point £10,000 without factoring in any fees whatsoever, including fees like moving costs and solicitors' fees. This means there are 2 things that you should consider doing. Firstly, is trying to minimize the amount of mortgage as possible by putting more cash down on a property. So that means either you find more cash for the same value of property, or you reduce the price of the property that you're looking for so that your cash stretches further as a percentage of the total amount. This also means the lower your loan to value, the better interest rates you're going to get, which is good in this market right now where interest rates are higher. Tip number 5, saving rates are typically higher when the Bank of England rate goes up. That means that if you're not quite in a position and ready to buy, or you were in a position to buy and then interest rates crippled everything as well as house prices, then at the minute, continue saving, build up that war chest of money and keep on building the pot ready to strike when you do find a house that you can afford from a deposit perspective, but also from a monthly cash flow perspective with the current new interest rates. It's not uncommon at the moment to find savings accounts that are offering more than 3 to 5% interest, depending how long you lock it in for. Tip number 6 is not to fix yourself in for the rest of your life on a mortgage. There are lots of long-term fixed deals out there at the moment, and with the rising interest rates causing panic in the market, It might be tempting to lock in a more expensive fix now for 5 or 10 years, thinking that rates are going to keep going up and up and up. And although the ultra low interest rates that we're used to over the past few years won't be seen anytime soon, and the Bank of England forecast that inflation will peak at some point this year, if not has already peaked in 2022, where we saw rates of 11.3% inflation. So in thinking about the future, don't fix in for too long, because things are starting to trend downwards and become more viable for buyers once again. Tip number 7 is that the only way is up. Now, it might seem impossible that property prices can keep going and going and going, but we have a chronic problem in the UK. Fundamentally, we live on this very small island with a limited amount of land that we can build on. And we have a problem where there is too much demand, of which that demand is increasing year on year, but also not enough supply. There never has been, and with the way the government are going, I doubt there ever will be. This means there's a classic supply and demand problem. We have more demand than supply that ultimately keeps on pushing up prices, as well as factoring in inflation and salaries. So even though house prices are going to take a hit this year, and some forecasts are predicting around 10%, which doesn't sound like much, or might sound like a lot to others, but in the grand scheme of things, when you look over the next few years, Savills predict that house prices may go up around 18 to 20% between 2023 and 2027. So in conclusion, the days of flipping a property and making a quick buck are probably over for now. But if you're looking in the market and you find something that you truly love, then don't pass it by just because the market seems a little bit down at the moment. If you're buying a property for yourself and for the long term, then does it really matter now if prices are going to go down somewhere between 5 to 10% over the next few months? If you're going to be staying there for 5, 10, 20 years, where it's potentially going to go up 20, 30, 40, maybe 50% in that time. If you find a property that you love and you can afford it without stretching yourself or putting yourself in any financial risk or strain, then my recommendation is go for it, because if you find the perfect place, it's not going to be there if you wait this time next year. Weighing up the cold, hard financial facts is one thing, but weighing up a home rather than a house is a major emotional decision. Most of us are buying our houses to be homes, not investments. So if you find the perfect place and you can afford it, then go for it. If you enjoyed this video, then you can check out this one here, which explores whether you should buy a house now or wait until next year.